For centuries, humanity believed it was alone. Then came the day Earth's telescopes picked up an anomaly, a faint flare at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, like a star that should not exist. Astronomers tried to explain it as a random cosmic event, but the pulses were too regular. Within months, evidence mounted. Something out there was scanning the solar system. Panic and wonder gripped the world. Leaders mobilized, military alliances formed. Earth's disparate nations set aside old rivalries to focus on a single terrifying question. Were these watchers friendly or hostile? The watchers never answered. Instead, they came in a silent storm of ships. Dark, spiked constructs, bristling with weaponry that defied everything Earth's physicists understood. The newly forged Terran coalition launched half-built starfighters, meager railgun turrets, even nuclear missiles. None of it mattered. In less than a week, the Watchers landed on Earth's moon. Without uttering a word, they dismantled human defenses with a chillingly casual efficiency. But they did not exterminate humankind. Instead, they transmitted a single command in hundreds of languages. Join us. No negotiation, no explanation. Surrender or be reduced to ash. In a final act of desperation, humanity played a wild card. A small fleet of FTL prototypes, not even fully tested, carried thousands of refugees away from Earth in search of rumored jump gates scattered across the galaxy. They left behind billions of souls under the Watchers' rule and vanished into the uncharted void. Most believed they would perish, some prayed they would return with help. The story begins decades after those ships fled. It is the tale of how those exiles found themselves in a new corner of space, overshadowed by a mightier empire, and how they refused to bow. It is the chronicle of how humans learned, once again, that no prison bars, however alien or advanced, could cage the spark that defines them. The colony called Aurora had been carved from a rocky planet orbiting a pale blue star. When the refugee fleet first arrived, they had found vestiges of a destroyed civilization, crumbling spires, ancient roads, twisted metal frames half buried in dust. There were no signs of survivors, only a faint energy signature that had drawn them to the surface. That energy signature became humanity's lifeline. Nestled under a collapsed temple lay a leftover piece of alien technology, a functioning fusion reactor centuries old but still humming with residual power. Over the years, human engineers studied it, coaxed it back to partial function, and used it to power an improvised settlement. They named that settlement Aurora, in hopes that it heralded a new dawn for their species. But Aurora had grown far beyond its meager beginnings. Tunnels sprawled under the harsh desert, linking sealed habitats and greenhouses. Ration lines gave way to small gardens, then to robust hydroponic fields. A city formed underground, lit by the reactor's energy. The old battered starships that once brought them here were dismantled, repurposed for structural supports, or turned into research labs. Humanity had become a colony of survivors, forging a fragile life amid the ruins of an unknown race. Colonel Ryland Frost never forgot the day he first set foot on Aurora's soil. He had been a child then, holding tightly to his mother's hand while dust storms howled across the horizon. Now, decades later, he commanded Aurora's fledgling defense force. With broad shoulders and deep-set eyes, he wore the weight of the colony's survival like a badge. Early every morning, he walked the perimeter tunnels, greeting guard patrols, checking sensor feeds, ensuring no sign of danger flickered on the screens. As he finished his route one morning, a voice crackled from his comm. "Colonel Frost, we're getting sporadic signals near the old temple outskirts. Could be tectonic shifts again, but it's registering too regular to be natural." His jaw tightened. "Understood. I'll head there." He didn't need to say more. Everyone in Aurora remembered the Watchers who had torn Earth's defenses apart, and though they had encountered no direct threats in this star system, they had discovered wreckage from other unknown species, implying that conflict had once raged here. The temple site was a half-commencement of grand arches and broken columns scattered across a plateau. Overhead, Aurora's sun cast harsh white light on the dust. A small team of sensor techs hovered by an improvised station, rifles slung at their backs. They saluted as Frost approached. "Colonel, we picked up short bursts of something," said a young man named Devon. He tapped a digital pad. "Could be radio signals on a band we rarely use. Not sure if it's an echo from the old reactor or something else." Frost frowned, scanning the area. In the distance, twisted metal protruded from the rubble like the bones of a giant beast. "Any chance it's an artifact reactivating? We've seen that happen." One of the techs shook her head. "It's new. The pattern started less than an hour ago." Frost's gut twisted. Aurora had been safe for years. Could this be a coincidence? Some ancient device stirring after centuries of slumber? Or was something else out there? Keep monitoring, he said quietly. I'll have recon drones sweep the area. If we find any sign of threat, we lock down. Walking back toward the tunnel, he couldn't shake the memory of Earth, the Watchers overshadowing the moon, the final message from the Terran Coalition's leader before communications fell silent. He had been just a boy, but he never forgot the pledge. Wherever we go, we remain humans. We do not bow, we do not kneel, we endure. Frost murmured that line under his breath, almost like a prayer. Then he keyed his comm to request drone flights. He would find whatever was stirring in Aurora's dust. Deep under Aurora's surface sprawled the heart of the colony, a network of chambers and corridors collectively called the Burrows. Though cramped, the Burrows had grown into a vibrant settlement with hydroponic farms, factories, even a small cultural district. Murals adorned bulkheads, depicting Earth's lost cities and the Watchers who had forced them to flee. One such mural had always drawn Lieutenant Naomi Sang's eye. Painted in bold strokes along an arched corridor, it showed the silhouette of the Watchers' vessels above Earth, monstrous shapes devouring the sky. Beneath them, faint outlines of Terran warships rose to fight. The depiction always made Sang's pulse pound. She had been a toddler when Earth fell, but the Terran Coalition's legacy shaped her every choice. Today, Sang walked the corridor with urgent steps, data tablet clutched in one hand. She had recently been assigned to Colonel Frost's intelligence unit. She was still adjusting to the weight of that responsibility. Word of unusual signals near the temple traveled quickly, and Frost had summoned her to the command center to help parse the data. When she arrived, Frost was there with a half-dozen officers and engineers. A large holographic display flickered above a circular table, showing Aurora's topography. A red dot pulsed near the temple plateau. Frost nodded at her. Lieutenant Sang, you've studied the old reactor logs? Could anything at the temple be tied to these signals? Sang inhaled, steadying her nerves. She had pored over centuries-old records for months, analyzing everything from structural readouts to cryptic alien scripts. Possibly. The temple might hold sublayers we never fully mapped. There were references to an extended labyrinth, but the passages collapsed long ago. If an automated system got triggered, it could broadcast something. An older engineer, Marta Delgado, rubbed her chin. We have an entire sub-level we never penetrated because of radiation pockets. Our scanning drones kept failing. Could be that some device we missed is booting up. Frost exchanged glances with the group. Radiation aside, we need to check. We can't ignore the possibility of contact, friendly or hostile. He paused, crossing his arms. I want a small team to attempt entry into that labyrinth. Zhang, Delgado, and a recon squad. You have 2 days to prepare. Sang's heart thudded. She had never led an expedition quite like this, but excitement sparked alongside her nerves. This was why she joined intelligence, to unravel the secrets of this place, to push beyond fear. Yes, sir. Before they dispersed, an alarm beeped on the holo display. A staffer tapped a console. Colonel, the drone feed from the plateau is picking up heat signatures. Faint, but definitely not from our equipment. Silence fell. Sang studied the readings. The shapes were blurry, but the anomalies were mobile, small clusters that seemed to shift and pause as if searching. Frost's voice hardened. We have unknowns on the surface. Could be mechanical, could be living. I want our surface patrols on alert. If these unknowns approach the burrows, we meet them with force. Everyone nodded solemnly. They remembered Earth too well. For years, Aurora had known no open threat, but that might be changing. Sang thought of the mural again, the Watchers devouring Earth's sky. She wondered if they had finally found the exiles' haven, or if some new power had arrived in their place. Gathering her gear, she prepared to lead the expedition below the temple. She prayed they would find a benign explanation, old machine stirring or mere illusions, but in her gut she sensed the worst. Humans had seen too many nightmares to trust in luck. The labyrinth beneath the temple was even more foreboding than Sang had feared. After a tense journey across the plateau, where the recon team caught only fleeting glimpses of the mysterious heat signatures, they gathered by a collapsed archway. 2 bulky Terra drones had spent half the night removing rock slabs, exposing a sloping corridor that plunged deep into darkness. Sergeant Ekin Reyes, a grizzled soldier who had once scouted for the Terran Coalition, tested the air beyond the arch with a handheld scanner. Radiation's higher than usual but not lethal. We can proceed with protective suits. Watch for hazards. At Sang's signal, the team advanced. 10 souls in total, Zhang, Delgado, Reyes, and 7 other men and women, some carrying rifles, others loaded with sensor gear. They wore sealed suits with faceplates that displayed flickering readouts, the environment's gloom broken only by their helmet lamps. Their footfalls crunched on debris as they carefully descended. They found murals etched on the walls similar to those in the upper temple. Delgado paused, shining her light. The images depicted tall, robed figures standing beneath swirling cosmic shapes. One figure held a staff of some sort, the old civilization's language. Spirals and lines framed the edges. More alien scripts, Delgado murmured. This might predate anything we've seen. Maybe these robed beings built the reactor we rely on. Let's record it, Tseng said softly, but keep moving. We need to locate the source of those signals. An hour later, they reached a wide chamber ringed by stone columns. Collapsed beams littered the floor. The radiation levels spiked, forcing them to step gingerly. Tseng checked her tablet. The signals were stronger here, but still faint. Something was interfering with the readouts. Reyes pointed to a half-buried doorway. Seems to lead deeper. I'll get the drones to check for structural integrity. Before the drones deployed, a crackling noise echoed from a side corridor like static surges. Everyone froze, rifles lifting. Tseng's pulse pounded. Delgado frowned, scanning with a portable readout. That's no natural phenomenon, she whispered. A moment later, shapes emerged from the gloom. 3 mechanical constructs, each about a meter tall, rolling on spiked treads. Their surfaces bristled with spines, reminiscent of the Watcher's advanced drones on Earth. Pulses of blue light flickered along their sides. They must have come from deeper in the labyrinth. The constructs halted abruptly upon seeing the humans. Tseng raised a hand, signaling the team to hold fire. She wanted to see if these machines would communicate. Instead, they whirled with surprising speed, launching arcs of electricity from protruding rods. One soldier screamed as the charge struck his suit, sending him crashing into rubble. "Return fire!" Reyes shouted. Gunfire thundered in the chamber, muzzle flashes illuminating frantic shadows. Tseng flinched behind a column. Bullets pinged off the construct's metallic shells, sparking. Delgado lobbed an EMP grenade that burst with a wave of shimmering distortion. 2 constructs seized up, spines twitching. The third reeled but fired another arc that scorched a sensor tech. Tseng scrambled across the debris, raising her sidearm. She aimed at the glowing rods on the nearest construct, the probable source of its weapon. A single shot struck home, sending sparks through the device. It collapsed in a hiss of smoke. The team pressed the advantage, systematically disabling the other 2 with precise shots. In seconds, it was over. 3 mechanical husks lay inert on the floor, smoke curling. Panting, Tseng rushed to the wounded. One soldier's suit had shorted, but he was still conscious, babbling from shock. Another had injuries from the electric arc. Delgado scrambled for a med kit, injecting them with stabilizers. Reyes prodded a destroyed construct with his boot. Damn. They looked reminiscent of Watchers, but not exactly the same. Tseng clenched her fists. We have to assume they're hostile. Let's see if they're linked to that signal. She crouched, yanking open a smoking panel on the drone's side. Tangled circuits glowed faintly. Maybe we can salvage some data? The team quickly retrieved the construct's memory modules. Delgado rigged a short cable to her handheld device. Lines of alien code scrolled across the screen. Tseng recognized bits of the script from the temple walls. She felt a sudden chill. The Watchers had enslaved Earth using unstoppable technology. Were these constructs leftover Watchers drones? Or a separate relic of the local civilization? They carried their wounded deeper into a corner of the chamber to regroup. Tseng's mind churned with questions. If these drones were simply automated guardians for the labyrinth, that was one problem. But if Watchers or their allies had traced the exiles here, they faced a crisis far greater. She pulled up a map on her tablet, scanning for the direction of the strongest signal. Just beyond that corridor, she said quietly to Rez and Delgado. We push on carefully. Let's leave 2 behind with the wounded, set up a defensible position. The labyrinth seemed more alive than ever, harboring dangers in its dusty veins. Tseng swallowed a surge of fear. She reminded herself that humanity had fought unstoppable foes before. The Watchers had taught them to expect no mercy. But humans had not vanished. They had come here. They had survived. She prayed that would be enough. Far above, Colonel Frost gathered with Aurora's leadership in the main command center. The newly detected heat signatures near the temple were growing more numerous, but the recon drones lost contact after entering a maze of rocky outcroppings. Something jammed their signals. Commander Sarah Avila, Chief of Colony Operations, rapped her knuckles on a console. We have potential hostiles in the surface plateau, and Sang's team is deep underground facing who knows what. We can't let these threats converge on us. Frost grimaced. We always knew the Watchers might find us eventually, or another advanced species. If that's the case, we have to protect the colony, lock down the burrows, prepare for evac if needed. A hush fell. Avila pressed her lips together. If we abandon Aurora, we lose the only stable home we've built. The reactor, the farmland, everything. We can't just run again. Frost nodded heavily. I'm not giving up so easily. But we must face reality. If an overwhelming force attacks, we can't hold them off with a handful of railguns and improvised drones. Our best chance might be to hide in the labyrinth ourselves. Ironically enough, the old structures are huge. Avila shook her head. We have families here, children. That labyrinth is partially irradiated, hostile, not safe. No good choices, Frost replied, glancing at the overhead display. The most recent scans revealed pockets of movement advancing toward the temple from multiple angles, but we have one advantage. We know this terrain. Let's deploy squads to fortify choke points in the plateau tunnels. We buy time for Seng's team to discover anything that might help us. If there's technology down there that can shield or protect us, or if it's a gateway to something bigger, we need it. Avila exhaled. All right, you coordinate the surface squads. I'll oversee internal security. And Colonel, be careful. If Watchers or their allies are truly at our doorstep, we might be facing a war we cannot win. Frost nodded grimly. We'll see about that. Humans have stared down unstoppable odds before. He left the command center, gathering a small force of volunteer troops. Many were ex-military from Earth. Others were second-generation Aurora natives who had only known stories of the Watchers' tyranny. They all wore battered body armor, carried refurbished assault rifles or energy lances scrounged from crashed ships. Far from a professional army, but it was all Aurora had. As they marched through the rocky passageways leading to the plateau, Frost's comm beeped with new data from a single recon drone that managed to transmit momentarily. The feed flickered, grainy images of spine machines on the surface. They resembled the labyrinth drones Seng had encountered, but bigger, some mounted on multi-legged frames. Frost's stomach nodded. This was no random leftover, this was an organized force. Who controlled them? The Watchers? Or some new empire that claimed this star system? Either way, it spelled danger for Aurora. We hold them at the outer ring, he told his squad. Use the terrain. Ambush if we must. We cannot let them breach the colony. One soldier, a lanky young man named Jiro, spoke up. Sir, if these machines are linked to Watchers, do we stand a chance? Frost forced a wry smile. Always a chance, soldier. Keep faith. Humans have surprised bigger foes than these. No one looked entirely convinced, but they pressed on. Beyond a narrow ravine, they saw the swirling dust that heralded the enemy's approach. Frost found himself recalling Earth's final days again, the Watchers descending like gods of war. He clenched his rifle. This time, no fallback existed beyond Aurora. If they failed, the exiles' dream of rebuilding might vanish in a hail of alien fire. Brace up, he commanded. Once they crest that ridge, we engage. He prayed that Zhang's team would discover a miracle below. Meanwhile, Aurora's defenders prepared for a battle that might determine the colony's fate. The hush before the storm stretched like a taut wire. Frost slowed his breathing. The Watchers had taught him many things, chief among them that fear meant little when survival was at stake. You fought or you died, and humankind was not done fighting yet. Zhang's expedition pressed on, leaving 2 injured behind to guard the fallback station. The remaining 8 crept through a twisting corridor whose walls shone with faint luminescent lines. Delgado suspected they were power conduits of some sort. The air grew colder, and the radiation spiked unpredictably. They found no more drones for a time, only the echo of dripping water and the buzz of flickering lights in the distance. Then they emerged into a vast circular chamber that took their breath away. A domed ceiling soared overhead, etched with swirling star patterns. In the chamber's center rose an archway of obsidian-like material, ringed by glowing runes. A strange hum resonated from it. Zhang's heart raced. This might be the source of that signal, some kind of gate or portal. Delgado knelt by a control pedestal near the arch. Its surface flickered with symbols reminiscent of the robed figure's script. If I'm reading this right, it could be a stargate, like the Watchers' rumored wormhole networks, or at least an ancient precursor to that technology. Reyes cursed softly. A gate, So these old aliens had FTL capabilities of their own? If this reactivates, who knows what might come through? Zhang stared at the archway. A shimmering distortion swam at its center, as if the air were rippling. She recalled the Watchers' arrival at Earth, how they traveled quickly between star systems. Could this be a local variant of such technology? If so, it might explain the presence of the mechanical drones, guardians left behind, or new arrivals from beyond. One of the soldiers approached a side alcove. "Lieutenant Sang, we have some sort of console here." He swept away dust, revealing a large rectangular panel with embedded crystals. A flicker of power danced across them. Delgado joined him, carefully hooking up her scanner. The console displayed alien glyphs. She tapped a few illuminated squares. The archway pulsed, runes glowing a deeper blue. The hum intensified. Sang's suit sensor spiked with EM fluctuations. Reyes took a step back. "Careful! You might open the gate for an entire invasion force." Delgado shot him a look. "We can't fight blind. If we figure out how this system works, we might close the gate or block outside signals." He frowned but nodded. "Just be sure we're not summoning some demon from across the galaxy." As they worked, Sang circled the archway. She noticed intricate carvings along its base, figures standing in a circle, arms raised, as if channeling energy into the ring. A few glyphs resembled stylized eyes, possibly symbolic of Watchers? Or a lost empire that once commanded gates across the cosmos? Her comm beeped, an encrypted message from Colonel Frost. She read it with mounting dread. Surface combat had begun. Mechanical foes advanced on Aurora. Lives hung in the balance. If Sang's team found no solution quickly, the colony might be overrun. Delgado gasped. "Look at this!" She pointed to her scanner. "This console references an active link to another gate. It's receiving signals from somewhere else in the star system. Maybe a sister arch that's fully operational. If so, that's likely where these drones are coming from." Tang's mind raced. So the labyrinth gate is partially online, but not stable. Another gate is fully open, letting these machines cross? Then they gather here, searching for the old reactor? Or they're scouting for something else? Reyes spoke up. "If there's a way to deactivate the network, we might cut off reinforcements that help Aurora. We just have to hope messing with it doesn't blow us to atoms." Zhang steeled herself. "We have no choice. Let's try to sever the link." Delgado studied the panel, comparing glyphs. "I see references to a key or a power rod, possibly the same design as the one fueling Aurora's reactor. If we remove it from the system, the gate might shut down." "Then we search," Singh declared. She signaled the squad to fan out across the chamber. They found multiple alcoves, each containing half-intact machinery. Broken cables dangled from overhead. The hum of the archway vibrated in Singh's bones. Every second felt precious. Finally, one soldier shouted from a far corner, "Ma'am, there's a cylindrical device here, embedded in a console." Delgado dashed over, scanning it, her eyes widened. "That's definitely the primary power rod," she murmured. "But it's fused in place. If we force it out incorrectly, we risk a meltdown." Reyes gritted his teeth. "Better meltdown than invasion, no?" Singh weighed the risks, heart pounding. "We do it carefully, Delgado. You handle it. The rest of us cover you." As Delgado started gingerly severing connections, the gate responded with pulses of brightening light. The floor trembled. Sang realized they might be out of time. She turned to the squad. "Form a perimeter. We might get more drones." Sure enough, mechanical whirring echoed from the corridor they'd come through. She glimpsed multiple spine shapes scuttling forward, larger than the first wave, weapons powered up, arcs crackling. "Contact!" Reyes barked. Gunfire exploded. Sang ducked behind a broken column, firing methodically at the lead drone. Sparks erupted on its metal shell. Another drone launched micro-missiles that detonated in blasts of debris. The chamber rattled, dust pouring from the ceiling. Delgado hunched over the console, ignoring the chaos, coaxing the rod free with trembling hands. A soldier screamed as a drone's beam lanced through his thigh. Sang swallowed a surge of horror, pressing the trigger again and again. The drone buckled under sustained fire, but two more replaced it. The circle was closing. They had nowhere to retreat unless they abandoned Delgado's effort. Suddenly, the archway flared in a burst of searing radiance. Sang cried out as the brightness washed over her. When she blinked away the spots in her vision, she saw Delgado clutching the power rod, now removed from the console. The gate stuttered, runes dimming. The swirling distortion at its center collapsed, leaving only emptiness. Drones flailed, power surging erratically. One stumbled, a portion of its shell flickering. Singh realized that severing the gate's energy link had disrupted them. She seized the advantage. Hit them, now! The squad unleashed concentrated fire. One by one, the drones fell, crippled by the energy shock. Within seconds, the chamber was still. Smoke rose from scorched metal. Delgado gasped for breath, the power rod clutched in her gloved hands. We did it, she stammered. The gate's offline. Zhang sagged with relief. If this truly cut off the endless drone reinforcements, Aurora might have a chance. She raised her comms, sending a triumphant message to Colonel Frost. We disabled the gate. Drones in this sector are neutralized. Secure your perimeter. We'll bring the rod back for further study. Then she knelt by the wounded soldier, heart heavy. They had paid a price, but at least they had found a weapon of sorts. If the Watchers or some other empire had seeded this star system with war machines, the exiles had just severed a vital artery. Perhaps it was enough to keep humanity's hope alive. On the plateau, Colonel Frost's detachment braced themselves in rocky cover as the mechanical host advanced. Unlike the smaller drones below, these war machines stood on segmented legs, each the size of a compact hover tank. Their spined hulls bristled with pulse cannons. The dust churned from their march, accompanied by the high-pitched drone of unknown engines. A vantage sniper took the first shot. The bullet pinged off an alien shell, leaving only a small dent. The machine swiveled, returning a sizzling beam that melted the sniper's cover. She barely dove away in time, cursing. Fall back, use crossfire lanes, Frost barked. He had positioned squads at intervals, forming interlocking fields of fire, but as the machine spread out, it was clear the defenders would be overwhelmed. Their railguns lacked the punch to consistently pierce the thick plating. Energy lance bursts hammered against the exoskeletons, scorching but rarely crippling. An explosion rocked the hillside. One of the bigger machines turned, launching a volley of plasma bolts. Frost saw 3 fighters vanish in the blast. His blood roared in his ears. This was Earth's fall, replaying in miniature. Humanity's weapons were simply outclassed. Then, like a miracle, half the machines wobbled, their spines flickering. Some ground to a halt, arcs of electricity dancing across their frames. Frost didn't know why, but he seized the opening. Fire! Everything you've got! A furious barrage poured into the line of crippled drones. Several toppled, internal explosions sending shards skyward. The remainder screeched in a harsh, mechanical tone, possibly a distress call. As quickly as the failure occurred, it faded. 2 or 3 reactivated, limping forward. But the tide had shifted. The defenders hammered them mercilessly. Within minutes, the plateau battlefield fell silent, strewn with twisted metal wrecks. Survivors on both sides panted, hearts hammering. Frost scanned the horizon for new threats. None appeared. A runner sprinted up to him, dust caked on her uniform. Sir! We got word from Sang's team. They disabled some power source in the labyrinth. Must have disrupted these machines. Frost let out a shaky breath. That explained the sudden malfunction. Casualties? Hi, she said, eyes downcast. We lost nearly a third of our force. Others are wounded. His stomach churned. Aurora's defenders had endured, but at a steep cost. He surveyed the battered remains of the mechanical host. Drones hissed in their death throes, spines occasionally discharging sparks. Each wreck was a testament to how close the exiles had come to annihilation. He radioed the command center. Commander Avila's voice responded, edged with relief. Colonel, we got your report. Sang's mission was a success. No new hostiles on scanners for now. We'll send medevac teams. He lowered his head a moment, letting the adrenaline subside. Aurora still stood. Perhaps the Watchers or their allies had found them, but humans had repulsed the incursion this time. He wondered if they had just triggered a larger conflict. A single victory didn't guarantee safety. The Watchers had shown how vast an empire could be. Gather salvage teams, he ordered. We might glean intel from these wrecks. This war might be far from over. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, the battered defenders tended to wounded and secured the perimeter. Smoke rose from the shattered war machines. In that quiet, Frost recalled Earth's final broadcast. Wherever we go, we remain humans. We do not kneel. He clenched his fist. Aurora would not kneel to Watchers or any other power that sought to enslave them. When Sane's group returned from the labyrinth, Colonel Frost greeted them in the temple courtyard. The battered expedition looked equally relieved and haunted by what they'd witnessed. Delgado clutched the power rod in a secure case. They exchanged a quiet salute. "We took some losses, sir," Seng said softly, "but we shut down the gate. The drones on the surface seemed to lose coordination." He nodded. "We saw it in the battle. You likely saved us from a total massacre." He gestured to a cluster of engineers rummaging through a large chunk of recovered drone plating. "We're analyzing their systems, hoping to confirm if these belong to Watchers. So far, we see differences in design, possibly a separate empire." Delgado grimaced. "Then we have Watchers at Earth, these gate builders here. How many hostile powers roam the galaxy?" Frost's eyes darkened. "Too many! But we survived. Let's debrief the details. We need a plan for next steps." They retreated to the Burrow's command center, accompanied by Aurora's leadership. Sang presented the data gleaned from the labyrinth. The Stargate schematics, references to a network spanning multiple star systems, and evidence of an advanced civilization that once thrived here. That civilization seemed to have vanished after a cataclysmic conflict. The drones, still operational centuries later, likely reactivated when the gate partially powered up. Commander Avila studied the schematics, so these constructs might have been guardians or scouts for the gate network. They recognized you as intruders? Colonel Frost rubbed his temples. "That suggests we might face more if we ever repower that gate. But we have the rod. We control it now." Delgado placed the rod on the table. It hummed faintly, etched with alien runes. "We can't replicate it easily, but we can learn from it. Possibly we could even restore the gate under our own terms. That might open routes to other systems, technology, Sen glanced at the battered faces around the table. Or enemies. The Watchers might have gates of their own. If we open ours, we risk drawing them back to us. We barely survived a few leftover machines." A heavy silence followed. Humanity had always sought to explore and expand, but the Watchers' conquest taught them caution. Colonel Frost finally cleared his throat. "We should remain hidden for now. Strengthen our defenses, salvage drone tech, and prepare in case Watchers or some other empire arrives. Our location's no longer a secret. We need to be ready to fight again." Nobody argued. They had sacrificed too much already to cling to naive optimism. Aurora had become a fortress in a graveyard of alien empires. Any illusions of peaceful isolation were gone. Before they dismissed, Delgado spoke softly. "One more thing. In the Labyrinth scripts, I found references to a beacon of unity, an artifact some ancient alliance used to rally against a common threat. Could be myth, but if it's real, it might lie in this star system, waiting for reactivation." Frost raised an eyebrow. "A beacon?" She shrugged. "Might be symbolic, but if we found it, perhaps we could contact other free peoples out there, maybe build an alliance. We're not the only ones Watchers, or others have oppressed. The universe is vast." A flicker of hope glimmered around the table. Humans had always yearned to connect, to unite. Earth's downfall came because they stood alone. If a beacon of unity existed, it might be a chance to find allies. Of course, it might also lure bigger fish. Still, with the gate rod in their possession and new data gleaned from the labyrinth, Aurora had options beyond mere survival. The Watchers had not expected that the scattered exiles would one day rise. Perhaps they never considered that humans might carve out alliances across the stars. With hearts still battered but unbroken, the exiles of Aurora prepared for the next chapter in their uncertain saga. Days later, Aurora's corridors hummed with restless energy. Salvage teams scoured the plateau for drone wreckage. Engineers tested ways to incorporate alien alloys into the colony's defenses. Scientists prodded the labyrinth's secrets with fresh eyes. Colonel Frost oversaw it all, determined to transform near disaster into progress. Lieutenant Sang sat in a small infirmary ward beside Sergeant Reyes. He was recovering from injuries suffered underground, though still pale from radiation exposure. She recounted how the rest of the squad was doing, how the colony was slowly returning to a semblance of normalcy. He coughed. "We got lucky. If Delgado hadn't extracted that rod in time, we'd be rotting down there." His voice softened. "But we did it. We humans always do the impossible." Tang managed to smile. "We paid a price, but yes, we're alive. That's all that matters." She left him to rest, stepping back into the corridor. Painted on a bulkhead was another mural, this one showing a battered spaceship amid swirling stars. A child's scribble below it read, "We escaped to survive." Once, that had been humanity's only dream. Now, on Aurora, they dreamed of more. Colonel Frost's voice sounded over the colony's public address system. "This is Colonel Frost. Thanks to everyone's efforts, the immediate threat is neutralized. We remain vigilant for any further incursions. Our strength lies in unity and determination. Stay alert, stay strong." Standing there, Seng felt an upwelling of pride. Earth's exiles had carved out a home from alien rubble. They had faced war machines that dwarfed them in technology, yet they had prevailed. And tomorrow, they would push further. She recalled Delgado's mention of a rumored beacon of unity. Maybe it was a fable, or maybe it was real. And if real, it might open a gateway to alliances strong enough to defy Watchers or any other cosmic tyrant. Deep in the labyrinth, the Stargate lay dark. The power rod rested in Aurora's labs, closely guarded. The day might come when they chose to reawaken that archway on their own terms. For now, the exiles would gather knowledge, build new weapons, and quietly prepare to reclaim their destiny among the stars. The Watchers had taught them fear, but they had also taught them that survival demanded defiance. Humanity, once scattered and subjugated, was still forging its path. Step by step, they would stand tall, forging alliances if possible, or standing alone if they must. Across a silent cosmic gulf, Earth lay under alien rule. But Aurora's people held onto a fierce belief that one day they could return. One day they might free Earth itself and unify all who suffered oppression. Above Aurora's rolling deserts, dawn broke in pale lavender hues. The battered walls of the burrows glimmered in the early light. Workers emerged from hidden bunkers to begin repairs. Children trotted after them, curious about the world beyond the sealed tunnels. Soldiers patrolled the plateau, stepping past the wreckage of drones. Life went on. In the labyrinth's main chamber, Sang and Delgado stood side by side, gazing at the inert Stargate. Delgado gently rested a palm on the silent archway. "It's strange, isn't it? We fear what might lie beyond, yet we also yearn to explore." Letson nodded. "Human nature. We run from the Watchers, but we keep searching for hope. We can't help ourselves." They exchanged a smile. Then Delgado lifted the power rod they had retrieved, still in a protective case. "One day we might place this back into the console, ignite the gate, reach for the next horizon. But we'll do it when we're ready, not because some old empire forced us to." Sang exhaled. "We'll need alliances, stronger defenses, maybe even an entire coalition of free worlds. But I believe it's possible." For a long moment, they simply listened to the wind that whispered through the corridors, carrying faint echoes of a lost civilization. Then they turned to leave. Outside, the sun rose higher, illuminating Aurora's battered plateau with a soft glow. Machines could be built. Gates could be activated or sealed, but the spirit of the exiles burned bright. They had proven their will to stand against any who tried to enslave them. Far across the galaxy, Earth remained bound by Watchers, and countless other conflicts simmered in unknown corners of space. Yet on Aurora, humanity kindled a spark of defiance that would not be easily extinguished. They had learned in blood and struggle that no empire was truly invincible, and as they rebuilt, they dared to dream of a day when all those who yearned for freedom might rally under a single banner. Humanity was not broken. From the ashes of old wars, they rose anew. Here, in the hush of a desert dawn, they prepared for the next step in their improbable journey, a journey that would echo across the stars, proving once again the cry that had echoed since Earth's darkest hour: